Hey everyone, Cameron with CBM Reviews here, and it's time for me to give you my spoiler review for Black Panther. If you don't want to be spoiled, check out my non-spoiler review. I'll put the link down in the description, or I may have the annotation just pop up right here. You can just click on it and not be spoiled. But if you've already seen the movie and you want to know what I think about it, you just stick right here and we'll get started. The first thing I want to talk about is the story. It pretty much picks up right after the events of Captain America Civil War. T'Chaka has died with the attack that happened at the UN, and T'Challa is about to assume the throne. He's going to rescue his ex-girlfriend Nakia, and they go to the ceremony. He is crowned the new king of Wakanda and the Black Panther. Everything's going fine until Ulysses Klaue shows back up on their radar. They decide they're going to go get him because of an incident that happened 25 years prior, 25-year-ish or so, prior, where Ulysses Klaue broke into Wakanda, killed a lot of people, stole a half-ton of vibranium, and got out. Now he's back on the radar. They have a chance to actually bring him back to Wakanda so that he can seek justice, and just when they have him in custody, he gets broken out by somebody they don't really know. The only thing that T'Challa knows is that he is wearing the ring of his grandfather. This makes him go seek answers for questions that he has. He comes to find out that his father ended up killing his younger brother, N'Jobu, who was stationed in Oakland at the time. And it turns out that this person who helped break out Ulysses Klaue is his son, Eric Stevens, who later on we refer to as Killmonger. Killmonger actually kills Ulysses Klaue, brings his body back to Wakanda so that he can have an audience with the king, with T'Challa. He challenges T'Challa to the right to the throne, which he has rights to because he is of royal bloodline. And he wins. He throws T'Challa off of a cliff and assumes the role of King of Wakanda and Black Panther. Fortunately for us, and nobody's surprised at this, T'Challa lives with the help of the tribe that is led by M'Baku. He is found, he is kept alive, but barely. They give him the heart-shaped herb. He comes back to full health. They go fight the forces of Killmonger, who has recruited Wakame and his tribe. They end up winning with the help of M'Baku's army and the Dora Milaje, and Killmonger is defeated by T'Challa. And technically this is still part of the ritual combat, so it's not a murder or anything like that. He takes him up because they actually have quite a bit of a moment, and I want to talk about that moment later on. And T'Challa assumes the throne, and that's pretty much how the story goes. And I really wanted to rush over a lot of it. I didn't want to go too deep into everything before I hit over the entirety of the story. So let's go back and talk about some details. First off, at the very beginning, they tell a story about the origin of Wakanda. And the first time when I watched this, I'm like, oh, T'Challa's learning about his heritage. Wrong. This is actually N'Jobu telling Eric about his heritage in Wakanda because he's never seen Wakanda before. He doesn't know anything about his country, and he's teaching his son the roots of where he comes from. And this is kind of deep for Black people especially, because a lot of times, and I say a lot of times, with a lot of Black people, we don't have that direct line of heritage to Africa for obvious reasons. And so this is a really rare gift that he's giving his son, and it's precious, and it's something that most Black people don't have, and it's kind of a blessing. It's one of those things where I really don't know how to describe it in words, but it's really wonderful to see. So that's how the movie just starts off. We'll fast forward to the ceremony where T'Challa is first crowned king, and that's kind of a nice visual. There are some moments where it looks a little fake, but none of it looks ugly. And that's the important part, as long as it doesn't look ugly. Let's talk about the characters. And I'm gonna start with my favorite characters and then work my way down. So at the top of the list, at the top of a lot of people's list, is Eric Stevens, or Killmonger. Michael B. Jordan breathes life into this villainous role like we haven't seen from a Marvel villain since Loki. And I think that he has a lot of points to make in this movie. The first thing off that you have to understand is that when you think about it, this is a very close parallel to The Lion King. But there's one big difference between the usurper in both instances. In The Lion King, it's Scar. In Black Panther, it's Killmonger. The difference being, Killmonger was trying to do things not for his own glory, but for his people as a whole. And even though he was going about doing things the wrong way, his motivations were pure. And when do you see the bad guy have pure motivations and just corrupt ambition? Wow. I mean, that is what we call refreshing. It also runs parallel to Magneto. And just for the record, Magneto is my favorite comic book villain of all time. And if you're able to be compared to Magneto, that is nothing but a thumbs up. Magneto does what he does for his people. And if other people get in the way, so be it. Even if those people look like him. That is the same thing that Eric Killmonger is doing. Whenever he's in a scene and he was really in the role, you can feel it. The tension is palpable. The acting job is just about flawless. I mean, from the very first time that we see him in the museum to the very end of it, where he is dying and T'Challa is telling him, we may be able to save you, and he just looks at him, he's like, nah, just bury me in the ocean with my ancestors, because they knew that death was better than bondage. How many times do you get a villain that deep and that empathetic? Kudos to Michael B. Jordan playing this role phenomenally. Next on the list of my favorite characters, number 2, Okoye. Okoye is just a strong black woman who has a sensitive side. She led the Dora Milaje, and they were amazing, all of them strong black women. Okoye had some of the best action sequences. Okoye had some of the softest moments. You can tell that she can be amazing and this fierce warrior, but still be nurturing and caring and loving. And she wasn't just a warrior. She loved Wakame, and she cared for T'Challa and tried to make sure that he made all the right decisions, and it was perfect. Number 3 on my list, I gotta go a little younger and go with Shuri. Shuri, as I said in my non-spoiler review, is the glue that connects Wakanda to everyone else. And I'm not just talking about everyone else in the world there, but everyone else as in the audience as well. They live in a disconnected country, and she knows about What Are Those? And Disneyland and Kansas and all these things. She even references Back to the Future Part 2. A lot of people have been saying that she references James Bond movies when she says, just like the movies that Baba used to watch. He put the shoes on, they self-lace themselves. Those are self-lacing shoes. That's Back to the Future Part 2. Come at me, bro. But anyway, she comes off as charming. She's a little bit bratty, but she's still very funny. She's lovable. She has a connection with T'Challa that on a level that nobody else has, not even Ramonda or Wakabi or Okoye. Like the bond that they have is just something really close and special, and I'm glad that Chadwick and Letitia were able to have that connection to make it believable for the audience. Nobody puts in a bad performance. You've got Angela Bassett, you've got Forrest Whitaker, you've got Chadwick Boseman, you've got Martin Freeman, Andy Serkis. If I have to say that there was a role that I didn't like, that was the role of Wakabi, who's played by Daniel Kaluuya. He doesn't do anything wrong, but it is what he has to do in the movie that makes him less of a character and more of a plot device. And he does it on 2 occasions. Number 1 occasion, when Killmonger arrives in Wakanda and brings the body of Ulysses Klaue, he flips on his lifelong friend in the drop of a hat. Like, completely flips on him. Doesn't seem like something that these people who have lived in Wakanda for as long as they have would do. It seemed a little off. It seemed a little rushed. The second time that he seems like a plot device is at the end of the big skirmish that's happening outside of the big mound, where he yields to Okoye and then everybody else yields. And I can kind of see, in a way, like, I don't have a problem with him yielding. He understood who was in charge. But whenever he yielded, boom, that ended everything. Like, it just seemed a little bit like whenever he was involved in a major turning point in the story, it turned sharp fast. And I think that it works a little bit better if it's rounded and there's a little bit more beef to it as to why things happen the way that they happen. Those are the characters that I want to talk about. We've talked about the story. Now let's talk about the fights. And in all honesty, the big fights are just that. They're big fights. There's really nothing special about them. But the fights where we have between Killmonger and Black Panther are truly something special. Specifically the first fight, when they're fighting for the throne. And this is where Killmonger really shows how terrible he really is. And not terrible as in, oh, he's just a terrible bad guy, but how he is truly scary, because he talks about, I killed people in America, and I killed people in Afghanistan and Iraq, and I even killed people here, just so I could get here and kill you. And the way that he delivers that line is nothing short of horrifying. And during the fight where he has the upper hand and he is just taunting T'Challa and addressing the royal family. Is this your king? This is the guy who's supposed to be protecting you and taking you into the future? Nah, he's not your king. He can't even protect himself. All through this movie, Killmonger is right. The bad guy is right. It's just the actions that he takes are on the extreme side, which puts him on the side of wrong. And it's very apparent that he's right, because at the end of the movie, after all the fighting and everything is done, T'Challa addresses the UN and says, we want to share with the world, but we want to do it in a way that connects us. So Killmonger, who is trying to share with his brethren to overthrow people, sharing is good, overthrowing is bad. In this case, T'Challa is like, sharing is good, building together is better. Those are my opinions on things, and there are some other things, like I didn't talk about M'Baku in detail. I thought that he was actually a lot funnier than I was expecting, and I really enjoyed his character. I didn't really talk about Ramonda, who was T'Challa's mom, very much. But if you haven't gone to watch this movie, and you listen to all of these things that I pretty much spoiled, Killmonger dies, and Klaue is actually dead too, and I don't really talk about Martin Freeman either. You really need to go watch this. I am not exaggerating how good this movie is. To put it in perspective on how good this movie is literally on par with The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight is a detective movie that's a grim and gritty police noir drama. And it just so happens to have Batman in it. Essentially, the movie doesn't revolve around just the hero, but it revolves around a lot of different moving parts. And it is a movie first. And it just so happens to have superheroes in it. And this movie does the same thing. This movie is about revolutions. This movie is about heritage. This movie is about family. And it just so happens to have superheroes in it. And it's a fantastic movie. I wouldn't go as far as to say somebody should win an Oscar as far as actors are concerned in it. But I think that Ryan Coogler deserves a Best Director nomination for it. I mean, he really knocked my socks off. I knew I was going to enjoy this movie, or at least I wanted to say, I'm really going to enjoy this movie. I did not expect to enjoy it as much as I did. I was thoroughly pleased watching it. all the times that I watched it, and I still got emotional in latter viewings. So if you haven't seen it, please go watch this movie. It is worth your time, it is worth your money to go visit the land of Wakanda. Wakanda forever. So that's my spoiler review of Black Panther. I may not have talked about everything, but the things that I didn't talk about, put them down in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. And if you're new here, hit the subscribe button. Share this video with all your friends. And as always, this is Cameron with CBM Reviews. We'll see you next time.